All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim Wilbur. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications here for the Greater Augusta Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us for Appeal Marketing Lab Part 2. We're so happy that you are here. For anybody that has since joined us and did not get the recording from Part 1, let me know. You should have all received it by email. But if not, I'm happy to send that back over to you so you have it. Again, this one is being recorded for you, and we will send that out afterwards so you have it for your records and to rewatch, because it is going to be amazing, I'm sure. But before we get officially started, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andy Vanhook, who is with Appeal Production, and he's going to get us started.
Thanks, Kim. Really appreciate that. Whitney, thanks for the musical interlude. I think it's always, never a bad thing to kick off a meeting with some upbeat tunes. Again, thank you all for being here. We're really excited about this month's seminar series. And with us today, we have the wonderful Whitney Hahn. She is the master message designer at Digital Bard in Frederick, Maryland. And they specialize in helping tech consulting professionals and nonprofits become customer magnets. A story brand certified guide and coach, Whitney writes compelling marketing messages, strategic video plans, and digital promotion campaigns that return 2 to 5 times national engagement averages. She writes, speaks, and consults about the power of integrated marketing campaigns. Whitney also hosts the Zesty Marketing Podcast, available on iTunes, Stitcher, and more.
Careful.
And not to mention, she's a friend. So, Whitney, thanks for joining us, and excited to hear what you want to talk about today.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for allowing me the chance to share this. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, aligning your story with that of your target audience. Because, no disrespect intended to those in the room, but most people are doing it wrong. And because you're doing it wrong, you're not getting the type of response that you need from your marketing. Here's the evidence that that's happening. If your team is more likely to be able to accurately and consistently recite the Pledge of Allegiance than they can your marketing message, you're probably not tuned up. If your target audience, if your customers can't say back to you what it is you do, you're probably doing it wrong. If your mother is still wondering how you make a living and can't tell your friends what it is you do, you're probably doing it wrong. And I see this over and over again, so I'm not picking on anyone here. This is kind of a chronic issue. And like Toby Keith was singing in the song, see, there is a tie-in, there's a reason I'm using that song. The reason that's happening is that most organizations are talking about themselves without bringing their target audience, their consumers, into the story. Your buyers want you to talk about them. And today what I'm going to share with you are some of the tools that you can use, the message modules that we'll build step by step, that you can mix and remix as you include your character, the hero of their own story, your buyer, into your story, and make sure that the chemistry is there and you're aligned. We're talking about our customers way more than we are. Again, are making the mistake of sharing that my dad started the business when God was a boy, and I've won all these awards, and we do this and we do that. And I call this weeing all over our books. Have you ever felt this way as a buyer? Take a look at your website. You may have 2 screens up like I do. Many of us do as we're working from home. And just take a look at the home page of your website the next time you get a chance. If you want to do it during today's call, feel free. You won't bother me at all. But at some point, do take a look just at the home page of your website. Count the number of sentences that start with we. If it's more than 2 or 3, there's room for improvement. Because when we put we at the beginning of the story, as an organization, we're putting ourselves in the hero role. And what we really need to be doing is putting our customers in the role of the hero and putting them in the position to be the hero of their own story. Our organization, our products and services are merely there to help the hero survive and thrive. And if we're not doing that, chances are they're going to bounce right off and they're going to go someplace else. And we really need to get this into the story of that our organization is trying to tell really quickly, because there's so much noise. People are just going to bounce in and out, and you will not grab their attention. What I want for you is to have such a clear and compelling marketing story with your hero at the center of their own adventure, that there's great chemistry right off the bat, and that you become the choice to provide the products or services that you provide instead of just a choice in a field of many. Excited about that? I can see you. Okay, here we go. Quick vocabulary just to make sure that everybody is on the same page. Anytime you're creating content, please know that I mean that it's anything that you're writing with the intent to influence. So this could be a social media post, a video script, the homepage of your website, an introductory email, a sales letter. Anything that you're writing with the intent to influence is basically content creation, okay? And the second thing that sometimes trips people up, particularly when we have a wide audience like this from the chamber, is what I mean when I say target audience. A target audience could be your customer, your client, a recruit, a candidate that you're trying to bring into the company. It could be an investor if you're a startup, a donor if you're a nonprofit, or that mom that is still confused and doesn't know what you do for a living. Any one of these can be your target audience. Good? Okay, very good. Now, your lab assignment for today will be to align your story and create that chemistry with your target audience. We're going to put your target audience, your TA, as I sometimes shorthand it, at the center of their own adventure. And then I'll also share with you a way that you can power it up by connecting with the right mind state. The mind state, once I started to understand the mind state, it helped me 10x the power of any sort of content that I was trying to create. And I'll show you how to do that really simply today. What we're doing when we put our character at the center of their own adventure, if we're doing it well, is creating an open story loop. An open story loop says, hey, there's something that makes you, as the listener, want to lean in and say, wait a minute, tell me more about that. I'm intrigued. And an open story loop almost never starts with weeing all over your prospect. We do this, we do that, we provide, blah, blah, blah. It usually starts a different way. Now, let me give you a fun example from Twitter from a few years ago. There was a writer that suggested that the first line of almost any story could be improved if you added the words, and then the murders began. Think about some of your favorite literary stories. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, and then the murders began. We've created an open story loop. There's some curiosity there, and hopefully you're leaning in towards it. This becomes particularly fun if you add this to the famous opening line from a children's story like Winnie the Pooh. I wonder what Piglet is doing today, thought Pooh. And then the murders began. You've created some curiosity there in sort of a dark and twisted way, but it's there, okay? So embrace it. As you start to create content for your target audience, what you want to do is open a story loop, a little thought bubble in their brain with a question mark on it that says, wait a minute, how can that help me survive or thrive? For a silly little Twitter exercise like this, it's helping you survive and thrive simply by entertaining you and giving you something fun to think about that has nothing to do with politics or a pandemic. And last year I was all about that. Your high-tech lab instruments for today are probably at the reach. I've got many in my drawer just to my left, and if you do as well, I'll invite you to get them out. They're the simple, humble Post-it note. If you have those handy or you can get those quickly, grab a few of those. They're going to come in really handy in just a few minutes, okay? This is, don't tell anybody, this is my secret weapon for writing great content and being able to do it quickly, which is something that we all need more of. Let's get into character, shall we? The character, your target audience, is the hero of their own story. So if you've ever read Campbell's Hero's Journey, this is what this goes to. And we've been wired for story forever. Think about all the stories that Shakespeare told. Go back to Aristotle. Go back to Ugg and Thug talking around the campfire after the mammoth hunt that day. Telling stories forever, and our brains are wired for it. So when your organization can share a marketing message, a piece of content in story format, it's really compelling for us. It's like candy for our brains. And it causes us to burn just a few calories to try to consume it and know if we need to take action on it or not. So the first thing I want you to do is think about your character and figure out what your ideal buyer, consumer, donor, funder is going to look like, okay? Imagine that 100% of any future business you get comes from that ideal buyer. What is it they want? I mean, really, really want. What you want to think about here is less about tasks, deliverables, and widgets, and more about objectives. How does your product or service help them thrive or survive? That's what you need to answer. So think outcomes and objectives in as much of an aspirational state as you can imagine for them. What is it they really want? And use those Post-it notes to jot down a few ideas. I will encourage you, I mean, these are really inexpensive, right? So use just one Post-it note for each idea that you have about what they really want. What's the outcome they're aspiring to receive from using your product or service? So instead of writing 4 or 5 on a note, write one on one note, set it aside, one on a different note, and set it aside. And remember here, I'm giving you the chance to think about your ideal version of the buyer. Because when we aim for the ideal version of the buyer, we're going to get a few others along the way. We're not excluding anyone. Rather, we're celebrating the type of customer and the type of want they have that we know we can just knock out of the park every time. Okay? So start there, jot some ideas down as you have them. This is getting into character. And this becomes our first message module. I like to think of message modules like little Lego. Now, I used to play with Lego. I might still recently have played with Lego. But when I was a kid, my Lego was a big bucket, like 225 pieces or something like that. And I could clatter those Lego out on the table, and I could pull some pieces and build a barn for my pony. And my brother could pull some pieces and build a race car that he would race in. My sister could do the same, and she would build a rocket ship. We'd pull those pieces apart, we'd throw them back in the pile. The pieces haven't expired, they haven't changed shape, but we could pull new pieces from the pile and mix them into new ways. So as soon as you start to think about individual pieces of your message as individual Lego, you will see the power of the Post-it notes in just a few minutes as we start to mix and remix these into new pieces of content. So your very first message module is your description of your character and what they really want. Again, think outcomes, not tasks or widgets, and write down a few things. The next message module that you need to understand in developing a really clear, compelling type of message that aligns with your hero and creates great chemistry with your brand is what their problems are. And here we need to get under their skin a little bit and agitate the problems. When you are able to define the problem in the same way that your target audience defines the problem, and in a way that they'll admit to, you are head and shoulders above the competition. When you're describing the problem from your audience's point of view, we does not show up in your language. It's like you're in their head. It's like you understand what they're going through. And when you have created that sort of empathy, that's chemistry. That is really powerful things. I love it when I'm talking with a prospect and they say something like, were you eavesdropping on our last board meeting? It's like you were there. It's like you know what we're struggling with. That is amazing stuff. And that means that we have a great chemistry. There's a right fit relationship on the verge of happening there. And I want that. Simultaneously, and this may be a new concept for some of you, if it's not a right fit, if I am not able to identify with the problems my target audience has in the same way that they're identifying with it, I want to know that from the start as well and not take on that engagement. Because I am searching for the ideal client, and as much as possible, I want for myself, my business, and for your businesses to have right fit clients. Because you know you can be a rock star, you can make them look great. It's a wonderful relationship. They're going to receive great value from the products and services that you have. They're going to become great referral sources. They're more likely to buy from you again. All good things, rainbows, unicorns, all good things happen, right? So agitate the pain there and describe it in a way that they will admit to, that they'll raise their hand and say, yep, I do have that problem. You get me. The third piece of this is to foreshadow success. Once I've identified my target audience, and I can describe the problems they have in the same way that they would describe the problems they have, I need to give them a picture of what success looks like after they've used my products or services. Story writers call this foreshadowing success. Little did they know that is an example of how a scriptwriter might foreshadow a different sort of conclusion for them. And you want to do the same thing as you're creating content. So as you foreshadow success, make sure that the success you are foreshadowing resolves the problem that they're having. Make it as visual, as positive, and as specific as possible. This is where folks like Andy and I might have a slight advantage as visual thinkers, because a great test for whether or not you're foreshadowing the successful conclusion is, could I film it? A great test for the problem, by the way, is, could I film it? If you're able to describe the problem in a visual way, it becomes less personal and less accusatory and more about, hey, I know this is showing up because. Think back to just 10 minutes ago when I said, you know this is a problem in your organization when, and I described 3 or 4 scenarios. Your mom can't explain what you do. Your team is more likely to be able to recite the Pledge of Allegiance than your marketing message. I wasn't accusing you of anything. I was giving you scenes that you could verify pretty dispassionately by coming in with a film camera if you wanted to and saying, yeah, I know I asked them all and they could recite the pledge, but they couldn't recite my marketing message. Foreshadowing this successful conclusion, ideally, is just that visual. You're helping them see themselves at the top of the mountain, whatever that means for them, however they are thriving and surviving. So I'm going to pause here for a second, actually 2 minutes, and give you a chance to write a few of the ideas down that you're having on your Post-it notes. This is what I like to call your dirty first draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you need more Post-it notes, I'll mail them to you when we're done here. And write a few down. You've got 2 minutes to describe the problem from your target audience's point of view. This is the area where most people struggle to describe the problem from their audience's point of view. So that's the one I want you to focus on for this little lab experiment right now. If you want to work on the others, that's bonus, but definitely work on the problem statement. And I'll be quiet now. "30 seconds left on this. This is an intentionally short period of time just to get the ideas flowing. Just go with it. Okay, and that's time. Did I get your heart racing a little bit? Yes, there's a quiz. Right now, I would like to invite anybody who would like to share with me the results of that exercise in what I love to call Tough Love Lounge, where you get to show me your dirty first draft and get a little tough love. I'm here to help you improve because tough love is still love. So if you'd like some feedback right now on the problem statement that you just developed, raise your hand, unmute yourself. This is a small group. We might be able to take 2 or 3 in the time that we have before we move on. I invite you to do that now.
Okay, I'll go.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi. So my problem statement, I just wrote down words that came to mind and phrases instead of a really refined.
Great place to start.
I have a bulk refill and zero waste store in Stanton. And the problems are too much plastic in the world, too much waste. Some images that came to my mind were trash cans that are overflowing, and plastic in the ocean. Those are things that really jump out at people and make them, spur into action. And wasteful spending, it's a place where you can spend your money a little more mindfully. Is that what you were going
Great.
for?
What is it? You're on the right track. Tell me one more time what it is you do. What's the service that you offer?
So we offer zero waste products, so things that can be, for instance, sponges that can be used over and over again, or sponges that can be composted at Black Bear composting or in your backyard composting, or on paper towels instead of paper towels that get thrown away, paper towels that you use and then wash and then use again. But our key features are that we buy products in bulk. We buy laundry detergent in 160-gallon tubs, and you refill your own container with laundry detergent or shampoo or body soap.
Nice. Nice. Okay, good. So your retail, I got it. Thank you for the extra explanation. There was a little dropout in Zoom when you first said it, so thanks for repeating it. Okay. So yes, I would agree with you that the large scale problem is too much waste, pollution, etc. What is the problem the way that the individual consumer is feeling it? So if you ask them to say, and that makes you feel how might they finish the sentence?
Well, so I think we also sell a feeling, like you're saying, because people feel happy coming in. They feel proud. They thank us for being there. And so people leave with that feeling of, I did something good today. I, saved 5 plastic bottles today.
Great. So as you think about foreshadowing the successful conclusion, that becomes part of the foreshadowing. You will feel better being kinder to the planet, something like that. And you probably have some statements around that already, but that's how the problem connects with the foreshadowing the successful conclusion. That's right.
Thank you.
I'll go.
Consumers, or is it mostly corporate purchasers?
Consumers.
Amanda,
yeah.
just consumers.
Everyday
Yeah.
people.
Household that maybe they feel like they're personally generating too much plastic. Okay,
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing. One more person in Tough Love Lounge, and then we'll go on to the darn Zoom connections. Okay.
I'll go if no one else wants to go. I work for the Shenandoah Valley Airport. We do have commercial service. So the problem for our target audience is that travel is stressful and time consuming.
Got it. Stressful is the feeling associated with it. I like that. Time consuming, also that. How does that relate to your specific airport?
So we are a small airport providing connections all over the world. So our passenger experience is very low stress. You only have to arrive 1 hour in advance rather than driving 2 hours to be at a larger airport 2 hours in advance. So you can save a lot of time. And at the end of your trip, you're 15, 20 minutes from home and can sleep in your own bed at night.
I like all of those things. So as she described the solution, thank you, Heather. You I think did a very good job of foreshadowing the successful conclusion.
Thanks.
Get where you're going faster and get home to your comfy bed faster on the return trip. Those would be ways to talk about it, and certainly something that we could film if we needed to. So you made it very visual too.
Thanks.
Marvelous. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you both for stepping up to Tough Love Lounge. We'll have more opportunities to do that. But first, I want to take just what feels like a minor detour, but this is the power up component of a lot of the work that I do. And it's understanding of mind states. I strongly encourage you to go to the website that you see listed on here, mindstategroup.com/resources, to look into this further. Marketing to Mind States is a book that will ebook and some workbooks and things like that. If you like to geek out on it like I do, it's a $40 investment well spent. And basically, Will has taken 80 or so years of behavioral psychology and boiled it down to non-behavioral psychologists like me and maybe like you. And what Will talks about in mind states is that the mind state is a temporary, non-conscious, emotionally stimulated state of mind. And when we tap into this mind state, we're highly susceptible to being influenced. Now, I'm going to pause at this point and ask you to promise that when you understand and start applying mind states, you will use it for good and not for evil, okay? Because this is as close to a marketing manager's Jedi mind trick as I've found yet. Yes, I saw Andy there with the 10 fingers there. Thank you, Dr. Evil. No, you must use it for good. But when you do so, you're really speaking to people in a way that exponentially helps the right fit clients find you, adore you, talk about you, refer you, and buy from you over and over again. There are 18 different mind states possible. Again, the simplified version from 80 or so years of behavioral psychology. And they operate from one of two regulatory approaches. So again, grab a Post-it note, make a quick note here, and think about as a purchaser is coming to you to solve their problem, which approach are they using? Are they using a promotion approach, which is very optimistic and says, I want to really maximize my chances for success, even if it means I'm accepting a little extra risk, and so I'm moving towards a solution? Or is it prevention, which is a much more cautious approach that says, I want to minimize my chance of failure. Help me not screw up. So promotion, running fast towards a win, even if it's a little risky. Prevention, running as fast away from failure as possible. And there's a huge gray area in between there, of course, but they're seeking to avoid failure. People who are buying insurance, for example, typically seeking to avoid failure. Entrepreneurs who are looking for somebody to help them with their new startup, usually very optimistic and running towards great success as fast as possible, even if it's a little risky, right? So just to give you two examples of mind states that are typically on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Make a quick note, you're probably right. We then marry that approach with one of 9 different human motivations. And here again, it's not essential that you pick the one human motivation that is absolutely correct above all others, but I bet you can look at this list and in 20 seconds, you can eliminate at least half of this list as ones that are not relevant to the purchaser at the time they're making the purchase for you. What is really, really motivating them? Again, think about the hero at the center of their. You have one, write it down. You might have 2, and that's okay. Often in my work, I can narrow it down to 2 of these that it's like, well, it could be this or it could be that. And as long as I've narrowed it from 18 down to these 2 with the right approach, I'm in good shape. So write down the 1 or 2 that you think is most relevant for your target audience. When you write your content, then keep that mind state in front of you. I put those combinations in front of, at the top of every sheet that I'm working on when I write for a client, when I'm writing a video script, when I'm writing a social media post, when I'm writing talk tracks for candidate recruiters, keeping the mind state in mind because it helps me choose the path I want to go down. Let me give you an example of how this works. Let's say that I sell snack chips, okay? And they're tasty snack chips and they come in a cute little package and all the things that other snack chips do. If I say, I think my target consumer is motivated by an approach mentality to nurturance, which is feeling loved by others. I want to be taken care of. I want to be pampered in some ways, feeling appreciated. I want to move towards appreciation and feeling cared for by others. Then in my chip content, the marketing messages I put out for that, I'm going to choose language that helps the consumer know that this is maybe a good choice for me to serve my family. It's a good choice for me to pick for myself. I would play up if it's healthy. I would play up if it is something that's going to help me succeed. I would play up if it's something that is not just tasty, but nutritious. Contrast that with a chip company that says, I think my consumer is, maybe we key off of something that Heather contributed, or I'm sorry, Amanda contributed. I think my consumer is really focused on not just personal wellness, but global wellness. And so if it were true for my product, I would talk about the ingredients being locally sourced, that they're clean, maybe they're organic, maybe the package is 100% recyclable. The chip inside is still the chip, right? But the mind state of the consumer influences how I write about the chip. Make a note there about the approach and the motivation. And we're going to move on.
Hey, Whitney.
These are the first 3 message modules. Yeah.
I think your internet connection might be a little rough, so it's making the graphics a little hard to read. So maybe cut your video try that, see if it makes it better.
Sure. Yeah, you don't need to see me. And I'm happy to send this to anyone. I'll give it to you, Andy, and you can send it to anyone.
Okay,
so
cool.
You get
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know that. Okay, you bet. So these are the first 3 modules we worked on just a few minutes ago. And we're going to add another 3 to that now. The first one is that we need to give our prospects an idea of what's the process for engaging our services. What's the plan? And we do this in a very simplified way. Keep it simple, avoid the confusion about how they move forward. Using an example from movies, I love to talk about Star Wars. In the classic Star Wars, the hero is Luke Skywalker. And Luke Skywalker has a problem. The Empire is gaining, and the Resistance is floundering. And if he doesn't do something now, all may be lost. Obi-Wan comes along. Obi-Wan Kenobi, by the way, is the guide. And your brand is also the guide, the one who is assisting the hero. And Obi-Wan gives Luke a plan. He says, well, we'll train you to be a Jedi, and then we will connect you with other people in the Resistance, and then you will destroy the Death Star. Now, there were a whole lot of other steps involved in what Luke had to do, but at its core, the plan had 3 basic steps. And you do best with your brand when you also give your prospects 3 easy steps to get from where they are to that successful, beautiful, promised land on the other side. I like to visualize a crocodile-infested river, and the prospect and I, my client and I, are standing on one side of the river together, and on the other side is what we all want, that successful conclusion that we have foreshadowed. My job as the brand, as their guide, is to point out the 3 great big safe rocks that they can step on here, here, and here to cross that river and not get eaten by crocodiles and get to where they want. So this is an intentionally simplified step 1, step 2, step 3 plan. For many people, step 1 is schedule a phone call. Step 2 is determine your best package. Step 3 is live a better life. Right? That would be an example of an easy 1, 2, 3 process. So many of us are making it way too difficult for people to do business with us, and we need to do a better job. The next thing what's to lose if they don't take action? This is something that motivates them to move now. Going back to the Star Wars metaphor, the Death Star was about to get finished. And if it got finished and it got online, a whole other planet was going to be destroyed along with the thousands of people that lived on it. So if Luke didn't take action now, thousands of people might die. That's a pretty extreme definition of the stakes, but it does get people to move. And you need to do the same thing. It might not be as dire and dramatic as Luke Skywalker, but it does need to be something they can feel and motivates them to take action. And once you've got them motivated, then you need to show them the yellow brick road to Oz that is called the call to action. What now? How do I get started? If you look at your website, this is typically, if you're a retail store, it's buy now. And so whatever is appropriate for your organization, the thing that is most closely related to buy now, that's what you need to be talking about for the call to action. Make it clear, make it specific, let them put some skin in the game right away. Okay? So here again, I'm going to pause. I'll give you 3 minutes this time. Aren't I generous? And take out the Post-it notes and see if you can write a simplified plan an idea of what the stakes are, and a call to action that is simple and specific. Two minutes, jot some things down. Again, this is your dirty first draft. It's okay if it's not perfect. Just get some ideas in place. Simplifying the plan is often where people have a hard time because we have the curse of knowledge. We know all the little tiny steps that go into it, and you have to really zoom out from that. So if you're having a hard time with it, try to zoom out from it. And I'll suggest you use a 5th grade career day test. And by that I mean, imagine you're going to a career day for 5th graders. Let's even say they're gifted and talented 5th graders. So they're pretty smart, but they're still in 5th grade. And you need to explain to them in 3 easy steps how someone would buy your products or services, how they would engage with your organization to get to that amazing place that they want to be to on the other side. If you can do that in a way that the 5th grader will understand it, you're on track. About 20 more seconds, and then we'll head back to Tough Love Lounge for anybody that would like to share. Okay, that's time on that. If you're really stuck, I'll give it to you Mad Lib style. I know Mad Libs are still a thing. They seem to be an even bigger thing when I was a kid, where you would fill in the blank with a noun, a verb, an adjective, the name of somebody in your family. If you're super stuck and you don't know what else to do, follow this Mad Lib. When somebody says, hey, what do you do? What does your organization do? And you could say, you know how, and then state the problem. What is it your character hates? What will they flip a table to get fixed? That's the best one. Well, we solve that by, and you give them the simple 3-step plan so that you can foreshadow the successful conclusion and avoid living through what's at stake. In fact, and this is the part that I haven't talked about yet, proof that you're a credible guide. Let me come back to that today in just a second, so that you can, call to schedule an appointment today. That might be the call to action. So this is a Mad Lib. You can just swipe this, and if you're struggling for a dirty first draft, use it. It's pretty good. Chances are it's better than the thing that you have now. If you have nothing, it's certainly better than the thing that you have now. Now, the proof that you're a credible guide part, remember in our metaphor, our example of Star Wars, that Obi-Wan is the credible guide. Well, you are the credible guide that you're trying to help your customer, your hero, go through. And you need to show that you're a credible and empathetic guide in a couple of ways. Empathy statements are pretty straightforward. They're things like, I understand, we understand, I hear you, we see this all the time, right? It's okay, it's easy. I'm not shaking my finger and shooting all over you about how you should have done this already. No. In fact, I see it so often that I've successfully helped 200 other businesses solve this problem. That would be an example of credibility. That's the one time that you get to talk about you. The thing that we want to do all the times as brands is talk about us. And in fact, if you look at the format, we get to talk about us less than 10% of the time. And as long as we do that in a way that is empathetic and credible, we've met the need for this story, keeping the hero at the center. Remember, they're Batman, we're Alfred. We're here to support them in what they want to do to survive and thrive. Okay? Tough Love Lounge opportunity again for anyone who would like to share how this is developing. Ask a question, get a little instant feedback on how your story is coming along. Okay. Moving on then. Where do you use it? Well, like a certain hot sauce recommends, put that stuff on everything. Everything. Your message modules, those little Post-it notes that you picked up, I'm going to show you in just a minute how you can coordinate them for different pieces of content, but you can use the same basic structure across lots of materials. One sheets, sales messages, press releases, product pages, social media posts, video scripts, blogs, website homepage, every place, because it's all a story. The only thing that changes is how long the story is. The story on a social media post is typically pretty short. The story on a press release, a bit longer. Okay? So the same components, the same message modules, those little Lego, work across lots of different places. Here's an example of how you can stack your little Lego, your little Post-it notes for some social media posts. Each one of these group of 3 little bullet points is a way that you would create one individual social media post. So right here, I've given you the formula. We're in a lab, so there's going to be formulas. I've given you the secret formula for 3 different social media posts. One could be your foreshadow success, 2, second in that, give the plan, and 3, insert the call to action. Please notice that's always at the end of these social media posts. When they're done for marketing, that's what you want. Why would you hide the cash register? Your call to action is your cash register. Why would you hide it? Make it easy for people to do business with you. So always give them a call to action. A different combination could include starting by agitating the problem and then being the guide that can credibly and empathetically help them solve the problem. And then here's how you get more. Give them a call to action. And a third combination could be to agitate the problem and define the stakes, which agitates it even a little bit more and moves them to action through the call to action that you provide. If you've used my super secret weapons of the Post-it notes, you could quite literally stick and unstick and rearrange them and very quickly come up with the outlines for each of the social media posts. This is a technique that I use with lots of clients for all the pieces of material that I just showed you here. They just come in different combinations and to different degrees of detail, but it certainly helps streamline the creation of your content while keeping the message very clear, very consistent, and creates great chemistry with your target audience. Okay, and again, I'll be happy to share this deck with you so you have these to refer to later. 31st draft, go ahead and peel up your little Post-it notes and create a little social media message right now. You probably won't even need a midboard at this point. You've practiced it a few times. But I'd love it if you created one and actually posted it later today. Okay, look at this. It'd be great to see the response there. Let me pause for a second and ask for questions before I wrap things up. I have just a few more super secret formulas I want to share with you. No questions so far? Okay. If you want, and Andy, I'll just do a time check here with you to make sure it makes sense. If you want, we can do Tough Love Lounge, the website edition. And look at somebody's website, because this is often where the rubber hits the road, the homepage of a website. Is this something we have time for and you want to do, Andy? Or if
Absolutely.
not, that's totally okay.
I think so, unless people have questions.
Okay.
If people have questions, then let's do question time. If not, let's do the website thing.
I have a quick question about social media. Is it poor form to start post with a question? Like, are you tired of XYZ? Are you excited to get something or another? Is that cliche and tired?
No, not at all. I think it's completely appropriate. I would simply encourage you to mix it up and not always start with a question.
Right.
Yeah, but it's certainly appropriate, particularly when it agitates a problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. A website.
I'll
That they would like
volunteer
a little
ours.
tough love on. Great. Go ahead and give me that.
Thanks for bailing me out
address.
on that, Beth, because if it wasn't you, it was going to be me. So
It's vpas.info.
Okay. dpas.info.
No, V, like Valley Program for Aging Services, VPAS.
Thank you. If I spelled it right, that'll make a big difference, I bet. And it's still trying to load. Oh. We'll give it another second.
I can pull it up, Whitney, if you want, if it makes it easier. Seems like your internet's a little.
Thank you, Andy. That's
What was it again, Beth?
V as in Victor, PAS.info.
.info. Okay, cool. Dig it. Think and share screen and that. Are we there?
Yep, that's it.
All right.
again. Just to give my to do is in the above the fold section. That is the part that loads before we even start from a caveman perspective. The first one is ugh, what you do. And the second one is ugh, how I get. So as you look at the website here, Beth, does it answer what do you do and how do I get it? I think we do a pretty good job of answering what do you do. I understand that this is a program for aging services. The visual content that you have there in the slider of the homepage also helps tell the story for, I understand this is for older people and those that love them, which is great. And I would surmise that your call to action is either donate or volunteer, because those are the buttons I see over on the right-hand side. Is that your intent for me, that I would either donate or volunteer?
Or access services.
Okay, that part's not clear from above the fold. Often what is recommended is that in the navigation area of the homepage here, right? Thank you, Andy. Andy's getting his Vanna White skills today. Home, about us, etc. Is that the power position for the main call to action would be a button in the upper right-hand corner, right there of the navigation element. Suggest access services or something like that. Or you could add it as a third option along with the little flags you have on that right-hand side for donate and volunteer.
Okay, so the fact of
Okay.
where you're seeing the top of the bubbles, like if you scroll down just a little bit, those are kind of the call to action, but you're saying that they're too low.
Yep. Yeah, if you can, see if those can be more visible, the words on them that is calling you to action above the fold. Yep. As more and more people are looking at websites on mobile devices like tablets and cell phones, that becomes even more important. I need caregiver. I want to be healthy. I need in-home support. So I really like that this is allowing me to choose, and it is I language. I, the visitor to the website, need a caregiver support. I, as the visitor to your website, want to be healthy, or I need in-home support. So this is kind of your air traffic controller, choose your own adventure buttons here. And I like that it's there. Just make it, a little higher on the page if you can. Go ahead and scroll down. There we go. My internet's a little laggy. It sure is. Okay, so you've got your Facebook feed coming in here. We have a little visual of the service area. Okay. What this is missing from me right now, Beth, is a little more description about how you can help me thrive and survive, and what's the plan. Maybe I get that as I go to each one of those 3 sections. If I wanted caregiver services, I would get the plan on there and the call to action. But as an organization, if you can, it's a really good idea on the homepage to give that overview of why all these services are even grouped together. How is it that VPAS can help overall to age better in place? What is it to age better in place, to live longer, to stay more connected, to stay more vibrant? Those are all things that foreshadow the successful conclusion area that could be on the homepage of your site as well.
Okay.
And then if you scroll all the way down to the footer, I'll mention this to you as well. I'm noticing that the top level navigation is not a sticky navigation. In other words, as Andy has scrolled down for me, I've lost the ability to see but don't object to. I would love it even more, as we just mentioned, if you would add the connect with services option there too, but the top level navigation has gone away. So consider making that a sticky one. And then your resource area down below here in your footer, this is quite clear. Contact, the email is there, have different levels, access to resources and job opportunities. Anything that's recommended to also be in your footer navigation, particularly if you don't make it a sticky menu. Let's go back. Top level navigation needs to be as streamlined as possible so that we have that yellow brick road. We're not confusing anybody where you want them to go. So the call to action, we've already mentioned top right is where that is typically recommended, because that's a power position on the website. And then things like about us could go in the footer. Events could go in the footer. COVID-19, I recognize, is kind of a special thing right now, and that's pretty important to a lot of people, so you want to keep that up there. But this could be streamlined to caregivers. I'm going to guess services. Go ahead and click on services for me, please, Andy. I'm going to guess that, again, gives me an option to make a selection for community-based services. Okay. You might be able to streamline that a little bit and just go to the but it's doing a pretty good job. You're more images. Again, much like story is hardwired into us from ages and ages ago, so are people's faces. From the moment we're babies for any piece of content. So as much as possible, keep using great faces in your materials. And I like not the vans or the
I think she may have gotten kicked off.
Did we lose her? Oh no. Well, We've got 3 minutes. So if she pops back in, we'll let her in. If not, what questions do you all have? There she is. Maybe. I thought I saw her head pop up. Looks like she's trying to come back. Was that, I know parts of that was kind of garbled. Beth, did you get some good pointers there? Did you have any questions that we could talk through?
Actually, I don't think so. I did get some good pointers, and this is very timely because we're getting ready to redo our website. So that was very timely information. Thank you.
Great, great. Glad it was helpful. Sorry it was garbled. And glad I got, thanks for letting me back in the call. Okay, good. Well, I hope that you got some ideas about how to create great chemistry with your target audience as we got into the laboratory here again today. And I encourage you to follow up with Andy at Appeal Production as a way to make sure that you're connecting with your target audience as visually and dynamically as possible. They do amazing, dazzling video there. As Andy mentioned when he was kind enough to introduce me, we've collaborated on a few projects together. And this is some of the secret laboratory evil genius science that we bring to the project. So if you want to continue that conversation, be happy to do so. And if anybody here wants to get back into Tough Love Lounge with me, as when I share the deck with Andy, I'll make sure that you have a link to schedule that. And I'm happy to do that at no fee and no obligation as a gift to all the folks that joined us here today. So you can get into Tough Love Lounge and get some specific feedback on how to really connect and create great chemistry.
Thanks, Whitney. I appreciate that. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, everybody, for coming in again. I think everybody here mostly came to the first session, which is really good because in the beginning, we talked about the target audience and how this, that was the beginning part of this. So it was important to identify that. Now we've started to help craft a story for those folks specifically to make them the hero of their own adventure. So next time we'll be talking about what that visual part of your story will start to look like. And with that, I will turn it back over to Kim, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much, Whitney and Andy. This was great information. I think we're all going to be spending a lot of time on our website now looking at it from a different angle. So we appreciate that. So as Andy mentioned, we will be joining back up on April 7th. So just use the same Zoom link. I will get Whitney to send me her presentation as well as Andy so that we can have everything there for you with the recording. I will provide that via email. So just later today or tomorrow. And I hope you all have a great day and we'll see you in April.
Bye, guys.